Yeah, I'm so excited to have Grace Redman with me today. She is a resilient warrior. I cannot wait for y'all to hear her story. What's up, Grace? How are you?
Hello, Amanda. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. Your energy is contagious, sister.
Ah, man, I'm excited to talk to you. Like
You.
already, like when we first chatted, I was like, yeah, she's gonna drop some gems on us today. And then the title of your book, I was like, yeah, she's about to tear up the internet. Because you've been through some things, and I think it's important for us as individuals, human beings, and especially entrepreneurs to know that you can bounce back, you can get through adversity. Hence the name of your book, Can I Live? Dare to Go from Effed Up to Fabulous.
Yes. Well, we have to keep life fun, right?
Oh yeah, oh
Serious
yeah.
time.
So share with me your journey of adversity, and we'll talk about how we can thrive through that.
Mhm. Like we spoke earlier, I've been through so much adversity and so many challenges. And like I've shared in the past, when I was 19 years old, I found my way to therapy. And I stayed with that same therapist on and off for 25 years. And about 10 years ago, when I started my coaching practice and I reached out to her to let her know about my new adventure, she said, Grace, I need to be transparent with you. When I met you when you were 19 years old, I didn't believe that there was any hope left for you.
Mm,
And I'm
wow.
so sorry. Please don't be offended. I said, I'm not offended at all. Like, thank you. And that just really speaks to the spirit of us as human beings and what is possible,
Yes.
regardless of our circumstances.
So true. You know, I have a history of working in the residential treatment facilities, specifically with young boys in the foster care system or probation. And I often see a lot of young men, and I'm like, I don't know if they're going to make it. And there's been a lot that hasn't, but there has been some that has blown my mind and how successful they
Mhm.
have become as human beings. So if you're open to it, can you talk to us a little bit about that journey that you had when you were 19 and how you can pivot into you overcoming adversity and why that is important for you to share?
Yes. So the reason that I chose to go into therapy when I was 19 years old was because weeks earlier, I found myself on the sidewalk of my office building, just laying there, just feeling hopeless, crying,
Mm.
ashamed because one of the boys that I had been dating just punched me and left me there. Punched me, threw my keys on the roof, and left. And I just felt defeated, ashamed. There was no one that I could go to
Hmm.
because in the world that I lived in, that was not something that you talked about. And you definitely didn't talk about therapy because at that time that was taboo. And so there was a little voice inside me, my intuition, that led me to get help.
Yeah.
And so during my life, I faced so many adversities. That's something that stands out for me as a game changer. That's what led me to seek help.
Hmm.
And it hasn't stopped since then. I'm constantly, working on myself, and our adversities really sharpen us and they build our resilience and our confidence.
Hmm.
I don't take no for an answer, and I don't give up. I can fall down 100 times and I get up 101 times, and it's
Wow.
rarely easy.
Hmm.
But then the beauty of it is I am where I am today.
Yes.
Such
And
a
do you
blessing.
believe that you developed that resilience since you were 19? I know that was a pivotal moment in your life, but experiencing adversity after adversity, like we all do,
We all do.
um, we really do. And I think sometimes it can kill us. Not necessarily physically, but really kill our
Yeah,
spirit, where we just feel like life is done and this is just who I'm going to be and where I'm at, and I'm just going to settle for that.
it can. it can kill our spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been many times in my life where I felt like, how can I go on? Like, this is exhausting. Can I catch a break?
Yeah.
And what I've learned is, I was talking to a friend about this morning. When you get to a point where you feel that you cannot take it anymore, the door opens or something
Mm.
shifts.
Yeah.
And for me, I've learned that through all of this adversity, the one thing that always helped me was, even though I thought that God wasn't there, was connecting to the God of my understanding. That would always
Mm.
be my last resort. And I'd say, why didn't I do that sooner? I
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah.
And regardless of what you believe in, there is an energy out there that is more powerful than us. And I always turn to it,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. So, how did you learn to thrive uh, when facing adversity, your own personal self, even as a young adult? How did you learn how to thrive?
Mhm. You're gonna laugh.
I love
So when
laughing.
so when I was a young girl, my favorite movie was Rocky.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Rocky? Wow.
Tiger, Balboa, and literally when I would be in situations where I felt like, okay, I want to give up, I would just really go back to that movie and to Rocky, and he would be on the floor and bloody, and he would get back up. And I kid you not, that is what I visualized.
Mm.
That is what I visual, and that, believe it or not, that really helped me in so many instances. Like, I'm not giving up, because it also showed he didn't give up, and what happened, he came back. And
Yeah.
I know it's a movie, but as a young girl, and then as a teen, and in my 20s, I used that metaphor
Mm-hmm.
in my mind
Yeah.
to, like,
Yeah.
okay, we can get knocked down and we can get up, because if I give up, then I really fail,
Yeah.
because there's no failure. But if I give up, then I've failed.
So true. So true. And, if y'all didn't know, Grace is a success coach, and she really helps us to shatter our self imposed glass ceilings, the limits that we've put on ourselves. Why do you think we put limits on ourselves?
I don't believe we even realize that we put limits on ourselves.
Mm.
I didn't realize that 95% of the way that we live our lives is based on the unconscious stories that we tell ourselves, that imprint on us from the time we were born to the time, some scientists say 7, to the age of 11. And so I was floored.
Wow.
I was like, wait a second, my belief system got me to where I was
Mm-hmm.
until it wasn't working for me anymore. It got me
Mm.
exhausted, burnt out. I was a people pleaser, codependent. And then I realized, oh my goodness, the stories I'm telling myself are not true. And I need to really rewrite my story and really dive deep into these different layers
Mm-hmm.
of, trauma,
Yeah.
and start unpacking them.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that we have to stay there for a long time, and keep, focusing and ruminating on them, but definitely acknowledging what you've experienced, what you went through, what was the stories that you created around the experiences, because our mind loves to create meaning. And so that's why we create the stories, because we
Mm-hmm.
need to tell ourselves something.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I think about the pandemic, which was a horrible
Mhm.
time for everyone in America and other places. But I think a lot of us lost, of course, some things, some
Yes.
businesses, family members, and we have a lot of residue that remains from the pandemic that no one talks about. And
True.
I believe that the conversations that I've had with a lot of women that are reinventing themselves, they have glass ceilings. I've experienced that myself, where as a child, I grew up thinking that I can do anything because that's what my parents told me. They instilled that in me. And then my dad was a pastor. So then I had my faith, in God that told me that I can do all things.
Amen.
But then tragedy happens, then loss happens, and then
Mhm.
those small stories start to build and create narratives. I'm literally thinking in my mind, if you guys can visualize this, that every small story that we tell ourselves, we're picking up a hammer and we're putting up a wall. And, we're starting to block ourselves in. Like you said, that glass ceiling, like
Yes.
every time we feel this way about ourselves or our situation, we start building ourselves in a box where we feel like we can't get out.
Yes. I love that. I love that analogy. You're right.
And how
And
how do we get out?
we weren't created to be small.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I believe the first step to helping us get out is really acknowledging the areas that we feel fear
Mm,
or we feel less than,
yeah.
our insecurities, and just leaning into it. And if you're going to feel it in your body, because it's very somatic.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're feeling something in your body, lean into it. It's trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
And once we lean in little by little, we gain awareness to those areas, to those stories that, okay, like I get to create a more empowering story
Mm,
because you do.
yeah.
And then little by little, it begins to expand
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
break out of that box. And that's the expansion.
Wow. Wow. That's so true. So, 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 so true. Oh my gosh. I'm loving this conversation.
Thank you.
Sometimes
I
like
love
when I have
you.
conversations with people, like I get chills and stuff. And that's just like for me, it's a spirit thing. It's like Holy Spirit for those that don't believe. It's okay. But for me, it's like I know that this is a conversation that is needed for so many people, and that you being here present in this moment is going to be a key that's going to unlock so many things for some people in this conversation.
Thank you
I,
so much. And
I
I do believe
honestly, yes, I honestly believe that.
I appreciate you. And I believe in divine timing and
Yeah.
spirit. And we really need to bring more of that back into our lives.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
being present and connected to the God of our understanding, a power that's greater than us,
Yes. So true.
ourselves.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's why I felt, lost, even though I had all of the success. Once I realized that I had the power to create new stories, once I really got grounded in my worth and connected to the God of my understanding, you know, things just change
Yeah.
with awareness.
Mhm.
And not to tell you things are easy because I wake up in the morning and the adversary is right there at my head telling me I'm not good enough.
Doggone it.
Ruminating over some silly, I'm like, yeah. So our mindset is so important in all of this as well, and learning how to really work with our ego and our mind to
Yes.
shatter that glass ceiling because we were meant for greatness.
Mhm. Mhm. And so take me on a journey. So after your experiences when you're 19 in your early 20s, when did you have a calling to become a success coach? To
Mm,
speak about your journey, what was that nagging thing that
mm,
said, "You know what, Grace, it's time for you to share"?
such a great question. So, in my staffing firm, because I've owned a staffing firm for 26 years, the majority of my work was coaching and mentoring my candidates, clients, employees, and I just naturally the person that everyone went to
Mm.
with their problems. I mean, since I was, a teenager, people came to me with for advice and for their problems because I was always the one reading them self-help books. Right? And one of my brothers said, "For as many self-help books that you've read, you are still so messed up."
Okay.
I gotta remind him of that. So,
Oh
so one
goodness.
day I got a phone call from a dear friend of mine. He said, "Hey, I was listening to this lady on the radio today, and she reminded me of you." And how flattered was I to find out he was talking about Lisa Nichols. I said, "Oh my goodness, really?
Wow.
That's so cool." And that really planted a seed. And
Hmm.
that's when I made it was really it was a calling. So I went back to school, I got certified, and I opened the coaching side of the business. And that was 9 years ago. And this year I'm really excited to take my work into the corporate sector to do coaching, consulting, and speaking, where I combine the practical
Hmm.
and spiritual principles, or energetic principles, because I believe that society has conditioned us to believe personal is here, professional is here, but what we haven't realized is that fragments us. And so
Hmm.
really working with individuals to integrate their personal and professional lives to live more, whole, and to that in turn will shatter those glass ceilings.
Yes. Wow. That's exciting. It's so needed. It is so needed, especially in the corporate setting.
Yes.
Yeah. So he gave you a compliment, and that's a great compliment. Lisa Nichols.
What was
Wow.
it? I was like, "Oh my goodness, dear Lord." That was a compliment for sure because she's incredible.
Wow. But that's, a testament to who you are and your spirit and your passion just really oozing out on people because they felt like you're a safe place for me to share my problems with,
Thank
And
thank
a
you,
lot
thank
of people don't have that. Mm-hmm.
you. And that is definitely, people always ask, "What's your zone of genius?" And I said, "I don't know." And I there was an exercise in one of my, speaking coaching classes, and what we uncovered was, one of my gifts is making people feel safe and
Mm-hmm.
seen and heard, when I meet them. And so I have always taken that for granted, not realizing that that's something that people really look for, just to feel
Yes.
safe and seen, heard.
Yes. It's not everyone doesn't have that gift. And I think we take our gifts for granted. We just like, oh, that's not a big thing. That's just, that's just who I am. But
Right.
that's special, Grace.
Thank you. And us, myself included, like learning how to really embody and own our gifts, because
Yes.
there's that small voice like, "Who do you think you are? Stop being conceited."
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't be arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
And I can even feel it now. Like I can feel it in my body. Like, don't be arrogant.
Mm.
Um, However, I think so many of us have played small and dimmed our light for so long, and that also keeps us hidden up that glass ceiling. And
Yeah.
there's a difference between humble confidence and arrogant confidence.
Yes. So true. So true. So true. Talk about the three C's. The three
Mhm,
C's of
mhm.
success.
Definitely. So the three C's of success, and there are so many. However, I would say, courage.
Yeah.
Because as an entrepreneur, it really takes tremendous courage to just get
Mm-hmm.
up each day and keep going when you don't see the result. The
Yes.
results are not immediate. You don't have instant gratification. So it really needs courage to move forward when you feel like giving up, when you feel like, am I doing the right thing? Like this is not working out. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other two C's are the commitment and consistency. Stay committed and consistent to those actions.
So hard.
Girl, I mean, I've been in business for this is going my 26th year, and I'm not going to front. But earlier this week, I said, "What are you doing? Don't you think it's time to stop? It's not working because
Mm.
I'm creating something new." And I said, "No, I'm not going to stop. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Going."
I love that. it's like this conversation is so on time. I was just talking about this yesterday with someone about being courageous and being committed and consistent. Because as entrepreneurs, we see a lot of, we think, overnight successes on social media, and we watch these people that have these thousands and thousands and thousands of followers and their life looks amazing, and we're like, I've been doing this for like a year, and how come I'm not there yet? And then we start, getting self-doubt. We feel like we're a failure, and it's hard to stay committed. Grace, you know
Yes,
that it is
I do
so
know that.
hard to stay
It's hard.
committed.
I know that, and it's hard to stay consistent. And
Yes,
when you're thinking, "Well, I've been doing this so long. How come I don't have those followers?" Or, for me, followers is I never prioritized that.
that's good.
And now I'm realizing that, because I have colleagues who have 100,000 followers. However, they're not. It's not showing in their business.
Mm.
And then I have colleagues who are, eight-figure people who have, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 followers. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so there really is not a correlation between how many followers you have and what you're bringing into the business.
Yes, that's so true. Kill the comparisons. It's not about the followers, it's about the impact that you're making. And as far as your business, I mean, what revenue? What does your revenue look like? Not your revenue on Instagram, not those numbers.
Right. Because when we are creating revenue, that not only helps us and our families, it's also helping the community. And I
Yes.
bet that you definitely contribute to the community. And so that's why it's so important for and I don't say just women, men and women, but I feel like us women, when it comes to money talk, we shrink down because we feel, well, for us to be impactful, it doesn't have to be about money. But let's change that narrative, because
Yes.
when there's money in the hands of women, we really focus on incredible change. Now, if you want to go buy the cars and the purses and the houses, yes, that's nothing wrong with that either.
Yes.
Money helps us create more impact, and it frees your time up to give more to yourself, to your family, to the community.
Yes. That's a whole nother podcast episode
That is
right there about
just
women shrinking when it comes down to money.
yes.
We're,
Yes, and I had a conversation with two women this week, and they both said the same thing. I'm afraid to open my mail. I don't even know how much money's coming into the business.
yes.
That's a whole other podcast, but
Yes, it
it's okay
is.
to be a successful woman financially and otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times as women too in businesses, we're afraid to ask for our worth, the
Mm,
number. We're shaking
yes.
in our boots.
Yep.
Give me the quote.
Totally, I still do that. I'm like, no, I've been doing this for so long, and that little voice still comes up, and I said, okay, I hear you, but
Yes,
that's a past program.
that's right. That is so right. So we have courage, we have commitment, and we have consistency in
Yes.
life and in business, right? Um, Talk to us a little bit about, and we're speaking to everyone, but specifically to women, for our mindset. What are some things that we can do to shift our mindset when we think about our entrepreneur journey when things are taking a little bit longer than we expected?
That's a great question. And what I would invite, the person to do is take a step back first and take a deep breath. And whose voice is that?
Hmm.
Whose voice are you hearing? Is it your voice? Is it someone else's voice? And then I would invite you to the adult, like the adult Grace would talk to the little girl Grace and let her know,
Yeah,
like, it's okay, we got this.
yeah.
You can do this. You've done hard things before,
Hmm.
and you can do this. And so it's a constant, it's like mastering your mind.
Yeah.
And so now when that happens to me, it's literally within seconds, I switch the script. It's like I even imagine a record, and when that thought comes, I think of the little girl in me. I'm like, I hear you, I acknowledge you, we got this. And then I really imagine a record like in the old days, and I just scratch that record because I'm aging myself. But I swear, I think of the record play the record, and then I'm like, scratch it, scratch that,
Yeah.
because that's how we begin to rewire, you know, our minds and our neural pathways. So I go to the little girl in me, I
Yeah.
honor her, and then I'm like, let's scratch this tune and create a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do we let go of our intended results,
Mm,
contributing to our achieving success? Because we all got the results in our head, like this is what
right.
it's going to turn out to be. But if it
Okay.
doesn't, how do we
Mm,
let go?
such a great question. And well, that's something that I'm working on this year. It's something I constantly work on, is surrendering the how.
Mm, dropping gems today.
And so I love Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, like when you get into that stressed place and your thoughts go, all over to the fear, make an effort to bring yourself back into your body and just let go, like ease
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Because when we hold on to the how, then we don't allow, the power that's greater than us to work in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I tell myself, Grace, if you don't surrender this right now and let go, you're making it harder for yourself.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this, Amanda. Have the hows been even better than you could ever imagine and you didn't know it?
Yes. I mean, I've had my plan, and clearly it didn't turn out the way
Right?
that I thought it would. I didn't go that way, but it turned out so much better, and I had to surrender
Yeah.
to letting go of the house. And when you think about your dream that you have or a goal, sometimes you have to pivot, and you know we weren't explained that as young children. You
That's true.
we have to pivot, and I think that's something that we have to learn to embrace. If i'm
Yes.
i'm going to start a business, I have to remember that I might have to pivot.
You will have to pivot.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. That is part of business.
Hmm.
And that's why it's so important to cultivate your resilience muscles as an entrepreneur, because bad things are going to happen. Not
Yeah.
terribly bad, but things that you weren't expecting. How are you going to handle it? Are you going to break down, or are you going to take it and
Yeah.
roll with it?
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I had a co-working space before the pandemic, and when the pandemic hit, I had to close it. Small boutique co-working space. Put my all in all in it, all my money, all of my time, my knowledge, my sweat, my tears, everything. And then when the pandemic hit, and I'm like, oh my God, I really miss co working, because I believe, not only healing happens in community, but we can
Yeah,
thrive and grow together in community, especially entrepreneurs, because you should be around other entrepreneurs.
absolutely.
And I thought about that. I'm like, doggone it. Like, I missed that. And I felt horrible. I felt like I couldn't get out of the box. And my perspective of how can I continue to do co-working was buried under my glass ceiling that I built. There's no way. I don't have a
Hmm.
building. I don't have the money to have a building, so I can't do co-working. And then I had to have a mind shift like you talked about, and I had to surrender to the how. Like, guess what? You better reimagine it another way. Let's pivot. Let's just bring some people together at a coffee shop. That's co-working. You don't have to have
Yeah.
a building.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, is that I had to let that go. That um, I had to reimagine what it's going to look like for me. I can still create community. I don't have to have a building to do that.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
And that's exact. I love the word that you're using is reimagine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we need to do is reimagine. Like really, what would it look like? Anything really is possible. Because if we have a desire or we vision it, it's possible.
Yeah. It really, really is. Wow.
I believe that.
I believe that too. How do we, and this is not even a question that we prepared for, but when you think about your gift or your zone of genius, and everybody's doing what you're doing,
Hmm.
how do you still position yourself, especially your mind, for success when you see someone else and thousands of others doing what you're doing as an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. And that's something that I've asked my own coaches, in the past.
Mm-hmm.
With, so many people in the marketplace doing the same thing, like how can you differentiate yourself?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many practical tips that I can give you. However, what I want to say is there's nobody else like you. You are the only one with this fingerprint,
Mm.
and you will absolutely attract your audience.
Yeah.
There is enough to go around for everyone. There really is.
Yeah.
And I have to also remind myself of that when I see, oh my goodness, the market's saturated. Why would they want to hire me? And recognizing that there is so much opportunity. Just run, your race in your lane,
Yeah.
and you will create the impact of your heart's desire.
Yeah. I love that. No one has your fingerprint.
No, and your heart and your energy,
Yeah.
and we're all necessary for this work. There's
Mm.
it's like we talked about earlier, it's a necessity
Yeah.
because we've
Yeah.
gotten lost and off the path.
Yeah. So true. You're necessary. We want to remind you of that today. You are
Yes.
necessary. We need you and all of you that you
Yes.
have within you, the gifts that you have. We need it. We really
Yes.
honestly need it.
Yes.
Wow. This has been a great conversation. I want to talk about your book. Let's talk about it. Can I
Thank you.
live? Dare to go from effed up to fabulous. Where did that title come from? And then tell us about the book.
Oh, so I had a cousin, and he was always just happy go lucky and partying and having a great time. And we tell him, don't you think you should just calm down a little bit? We're married now, we have kids. And, it was just, we were always having a good time, but we thought, hey, come on. He's all, can I live? And I said, one day I'm going to write a book and I'm going to call it Can I Live? And I was joking. I never even thought about writing a book.
Uh huh.
So that's where that title came in. And then for Dare to Go from effed up to fabulous, which obviously none of us are really, effed up, but came from when the therapist told me, like, I thought that you had no hope. And
Mm,
so that's how we came up with that title, and just something fun and
yeah.
edgy. And really what it talks about are the steps that I took to get from where I was at 19 to where I am, today. And the book's been out for 2 years, so from the time I was 19 to 50.
Wow.
um, and I lost my mom when she was 50 years old. She was 50 years old when she passed away, and I was determined to, you know, live beyond 50 and live fabulously. And so that's where that came from.
Yeah. So you're lining out the steps of how we can do that in our
Absolutely.
journey. Give me
Absolutely.
a couple of steps that you can drop to the audience from your book.
Okay, so step one, I would say, is really sit down, get honest with yourself, and put your mess on the table.
Ooh,
Just get out of the denial, put your mess on the table, take accountability for where you are,
Grace.
and it's okay. It's really okay, regardless of what you've done, where you've come from, how bad it is, or how bad you think it is. That's it. Put it on the table. That's step one. You're okay.
Grace. That is a hard step. You already know that's a very
Oh, but
courageous step to put your mess out on the table.
yes, yeah, taking accountability
Yeah.
for where you are, because we do. I mean, I don't want to blame things, because I mean, bad things happen. Not, you
Yeah.
know, everything is. There's some things that are definitely out of our control. But if you really think about it, our habits and decisions get us to where we are.
Girl. Yes.
So that would
We
be,
do.
the first step.
I like how your tone of voice changed. You're like, just, I'm just being honest with you guys. That's the first step.
It is, because how many people really take accountability or responsibility? Because most of us are playing the victim card and blaming others.
Yeah. So you have to lay all of your mess out on the table. That's step one.
Hmm.
And take some ownership. Because, like you
Yes.
said, things happen. Yes, out of our
Hmm.
control. Some people happen to us, but there's a lot of decisions that we've made that have affected where we are today.
Absolutely. And then the second step, forgive yourself. And I know
Mm,
forgiveness can be hard, but just setting the intention to forgive yourself
yes.
starts the process.
Yeah.
And just be gentle with yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's a soul step right there, is to forgive yourself. And I
Yes.
think a lot of us, when you talk about your glass ceiling, is that forgiveness of ourselves just is so hard to do. And it holds us hostage for so long,
It
forgiving
really does.
ourselves.
It
Yeah.
really does. And to, regardless of what's happened in the past, today can be a new day. Tomorrow can be a new day. You can start over. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. However, because people ask me, how do you do it? I said, you know what? It's so much harder for me to stay in a place that's just not working for me than it is to do the work. Meaning,
Yeah.
you know, take accountability, get my steps in. I know this sounds rudimentary, but get my steps in, eat healthy, watch what I drink, if I even drink,
Mm-hmm.
watch how I'm, showing up in situations,
Yeah.
watch my insecurities, how am I being mindful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a process, right? To forgive yourself. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time.
It really does take time. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. But it's possible. It's
Absolutely.
not impossible. And you have shown us today, with courage, commitment, and consistency, when it comes down to success, and that could be applicable to your entrepreneur journey as well as your own personal growth, that you showed us that we create the ceilings, but we can break them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we can
Regardless
break
of
them.
circumstances, we can break them. And it just
Yes.
takes, mindset, resilience, that courage, commitment, and consistency. I've seen miracles. My own life is a miracle. So if I can do it, you can do it.
Yes. And Grace hasn't even shared everything on her journey. I was reading her bio about the things that she's gone through in life and adversity, and sometimes it seems like things happen back to back to back to back to back, and you're like, can I catch a break? um
Right?
but you made a choice. You were very intentional about changing the narrative, reimagining your life, and taking the necessary steps to make your life what it is today.
Yes, absolutely. Because if I want to live my future based on the vision I have, then I need to make those changes today, create new
Mm-hmm.
habits, take the action, be committed, be consistent.
Yes.
Because my
Yes.
future self, I'm creating it today in how I'm living and what I'm
So
doing.
true. So true.
If I want to
Well,
have that emotional, fitness, freedom, if I want to have that emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical and financial fitness and freedom, then I need to start today.
yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And embrace the journey. Small steps, you'll get there.
That's it, and it's all about the journey, staying
Yeah.
present, enjoying it along the way, so
Yeah. Well, if you could talk to younger Grace, what
mm.
would you tell her?
Oh, I just got emotional. That you're safe and all is well. It's okay.
Yeah.
Everything is okay and will be okay. You're enough.
Yes.
You are enough. You don't have to earn it or deserve it.
Mm. You don't have to earn it or deserve. Yes, you are enough.
Yes.
Wow. And before we go,
Hmm.
um, give some advice to an aspiring entrepreneur, genderless, that has a dream, a big dream. Give them some advice about self belief and confidence and how they can achieve their dreams and just really breaking that glass ceiling.
Hmm. So, one piece of advice I would give to an entrepreneur who has a dream or someone who wants to be an entrepreneur and has that dream and that desire. Number one, if you have that dream and desire, it is possible, like we mentioned earlier. Number two, I would find someone, identify someone who has created what you desire, and if if they're online, follow them, or if in real life, reach
Mm.
out to them, let them know what your desires are, because I promise you they would be willing to help. And just get yourself in circles with other like-minded successful people. I promise you that will
Yes.
help.
Yes. Yes. Y'all heard it from Grace. She's a success coach. And don't forget to check out her book, Can I Live? Yes, you can. You can have a fabulous life, but you have to create it, and it's up to you to get it. So thank you so much, Grace, for your time. And I look forward to connecting with you real soon. Hopefully
Well,
at the next brunch for Sparkle Foundation.
I will be there.
All right.